Welcome to the SBCA podcast, Component Connection, where we explore the people, ideas, trends, and innovations shaping the structural framing industry. Regardless of how you touch this industry, we're glad you're here. Enjoy the episode.
Hello, I'm Molly Butz, Interim Co-Executive Director for SBCA, and I'll be your host for this episode of Component Connection Lumber Insights. I'm joined today by Justin Benning and Ken Timmins. Justin and Ken are lumber traders from American International Forest Products, or AIFP. Welcome to the podcast, gentlemen.
Thank you, Molly.
Happy Wednesday, Molly.
Happy Wednesday. Yeah, we're recording a little later than we might sometimes and a little earlier than we have other times. We were just talking about how lovely the weather's been and how crazy the first part of the year's been and how we aren't doing this as often as we used to. So we've got to just get right to the point. So that's what I'm going to do today. It has been a little bit of time since I can't believe it's been a month already since our last Lumber Insights, actually. So let's just kick it off with a little recap of what's been happening in the lumber market since then.
Well, it's been a little while since I have been on the podcast. So yeah, I feel like a guest these days again, which is wonderful. The market has been all over the place. First half of 2026 has been great. It has, in my opinion, been what a lot of people hoped it to be thus far, not without its trials and tribulations, but overall really solid business in almost every major market across the country. Where do I even begin here? Upward trending market over the last 60 days, 75 days since I was last on this podcast, of which the last 10 days to 14 days have been a little bit turbulent. In fur products specifically, the market really, if we zoom out and look kind of macro here, the market has been going up since the beginning of the year, which is not something anybody had in their fortune cookie on, my family does Chinese food on Christmas. As we were rounding out the year, no one thought that was going to happen. It's been a great surprise. And I think a lot of people are happy about that, especially because it was a long, slow, sustained run. It wasn't an overnight pop. People got caught selling cheap, paying high. It was just a nice throw a log on the fire every 25 minutes kind of market, which is good for producers. It's good for end users. That's been great. Obviously, there's been a little bit of turbulence in a couple areas. The Iranian conflict is probably the number one factor affecting consumer confidence, and coupled with high fuel prices, which we are still feeling in the transportation world. Rates have not come down. Some of the rates that we are seeing are still very high. And I know there's quite a few customers who are flustered or frustrated with the fact that the market is somehow still going up, even though supply and demand don't necessarily justify it. I'd say probably the last 25% of the market really was fuel based. And that's transportation, not only on the load that gets delivered to you, but for the logger out in the forest. Wages are going up at sawmills. Right now, there's a major sawmill that is reviewing if their labor is going to strike or not. Sounds like they came to a agreement before the strike happened here on Friday is when it would happen. Now that might change before this podcast gets released, but I believe they came to a resolution there. Summer markets are very funny. In my 10 years as a lumber trader, I have gotten mauled by the summer market almost every year, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but there's typically a wide sense of optimism through the spring buy. And then as you start getting into the hotter dog days of summer, the market tends to peel off. This year, we've actually kind of made it farther into the late spring, early summer than most years. Market is pretty healthy. That being said, it feels like it should come off. And I really emphasize the word feel there because everyone's feeling it. Things are quieter. Customers are less enthusiastic about buying. I think when you consider speculative purchasing, no one's really doing it. End users aren't doing it. Wholesalers aren't doing it as much. Sawmills have been leaning on their order files as best they can. So they're not really feeling pressure to get lower pricing. Customers don't really feel pressured to pay higher pricing. And then in the middle, you have some wholesalers who are a lighthouse in the storm holding firm. You have other wholesalers who are scared and discounting. There can be a really wide range of pricing on any product in any market. I will say the glimmering spot of all of lumber pricing really is high grade for cord stock across the U.S., specifically in fur products. Hasn't gone anywhere. And there's not a lot of production out there. I don't see any reason for it to come off in price. There's not enough enthusiasm to really make it run. I bet it lingers for 30 to 45 days. I would bet the family farm the next time we record this podcast, high grade, Doug for him for white fir has not changed price. That being said, web stock has gone up in price more than any product in the country, which is wild. And I would say it's probably up 35% over the last 60 days. That caught a lot of people off guard. And it's not easy to come by. I was putting orders together this morning that are routine. We do them every week, very simple. And the mill is suddenly 30 days out and tallies are choppy. Yeah, and prices are up. Okay. So that's an interesting dynamic to what's going on. So overall, I would say market's healthy. I do expect a downward trend as we get toward the 4th of July. I think high grade is going to hang in there. Web stock is bound to come off because I do believe stud products will come off. I don't think they're going to come off in huge chunks, but they will be slightly cheaper moving forward. Transportation is very tough. And then I would say really kind of the two factors influencing demand and enthusiasm is the Iranian war. And we are going to get in the wheelhouse of starting to talk about politics here as we get closer to November. The one other thing that we always bring up this time of the year is forest fires. I know we've been talking a lot about that. This is the lowest snowpack year in Oregon history since they started recording snow counts. Yeah. Same could be said with Washington, California. There are a few forest fires burning. In Oregon so far, the ones that are burning aren't necessarily in forests that we're using for logging, and they're not on top of mill production. It really affects the market if the fires are where we're getting the logs and shuts down logging, or especially as we look at Canadian producers in smaller towns, the millwrights are also the firefighters in a lot of instances. So that directly pulls production off.
Absolutely.
Justin here is showing me a headline that there are 4 Southern California wildfires burning about 23,000 acres. I did see some of those here last week. Again, those are they're not on top of the production, so it shouldn't hurt that side of things, but it's totally a factor.
The bigger point, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like it's here, it's May.
Yep.
And like
today, I mean, if we were doing a video podcast, you'd see we record just in the suburbs of Portland. Beautiful day. It's 80 degrees. It's breezy. It's beautiful. Tomorrow we're going to have heavy rain and it's still going to be hot and there's going to be lightning all over the place. We just got done with Memorial Day weekend. Lots of people out in the woods camping. Thankfully, no major disasters broke out. Yeah. But we're getting into that time of the year where there's people out in the woods. There's things going on.
Yeah.
It's going to be, unfortunately, and nobody's celebrating that. It's a horrible thing. Yeah. And I mean,
it's something to be cognizant of, right?
100%. Yeah. So,
because I think anything, especially, in this part of the country, like it is what it is in terms of like your production capacity. So any sort of ripple or, something to cause interference there sends shockwaves through the pipeline.
I remember with some of our other disasters, it wasn't even that it was affecting production, but then it was the atmospheric rivers was causing a bunch of washed out railways and things. So it's affecting, like there's all this trickle down right into all the other things that affect how your wood is getting to you and how fast it's happening.
That's what I was trying to say. You just articulated way better. My brain's flying at half mast right now.
Well, and I know we've talked even a couple episodes, Ken, I just went back and looked at notes and you'd predicted already this was going to be, if not a very bad, but maybe the worst forest fire season we've had in a very long time, if ever. So
yeah, that sucks. And I still feel that way.
It does.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that feel that way. I've talked with a few people, like one of my dear sawmill reps, her husband's a retired forest firefighter, wildland firefighter. He agrees. There's people, I've been traveling, I drove 400 miles over the weekend to camp myself. People at the gas stations talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, spring/summer is just started a couple months early. I mean, I base it off the cottonwood trees because that's when I end up doing my yard work, right? So it's like I wait until the cottonwoods have done their thing, and usually that's the latter half of June. And those things will whooping May 1st, spreading their seed. So no, it's dry. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, with as dry as it's been, we even, one of our team lives out in the LA area and there've been the fires out there, just, a farmer doing his thing, hits a rock and sparks a fire and suddenly it takes so little. So I hope everyone is really paying attention and being responsible about campfires and fireworks and throwing a cigarette out the window,
Absolutely.
Crazy. Yeah. All right. JB.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, in terms of the U.S. South, we've had, I guess it's what goes up must come down. And we've seen that over the past several weeks. I think we were kind of in the midst of it during our last podcast with the feeling that I think we may see a leveling out coming soon. That's kind of what's occurred over the last couple of weeks. We've just seen a steady balance between supply and demand. Mills cleaned up what they had for the majority of their prompt offerings. So any major discounts that were lingering in the market have mostly gone away now at this point. The trade is trading right around print levels today. So not a big fluctuation over or under. I think a large portion of the wood that had to be bought, when we're talking multifamily, jobbers, I think there was a lot of wood the first, quarter, 2 quarters of this year that was maybe not taken at levels that folks would have liked, and the market worked against them. But all things said, I think most of that wood has been now pushed through the system. I think that the month of June is going to be a lot like how we're trading right now, which is kind of a slugfest, right? I don't think we're going to see a lot of price movement upward. I also don't necessarily think we're going to see the price moving downward. I think we're going to be kind of in a choppy market here, relatively stable in pricing for most items. And I think that a big standout topic, I think just across the U.S. South has been trucking without a doubt. And just the transportation woes. It feels like there's, for every 500 loads available, there's one truck. Things are taking, quick feels like a couple weeks, and standard feels like 3 to 4 weeks to get something moved, even if it's on the ground. And it's really testing the buyer's patience. And we're obviously at the forefront of that, trying to manage those things. And it's been difficult, to say the least, because there's no good answers to give. The best thing that we can do is educate our customers up front and let them know the reality of the situation and the lead times. But at the same time, you've got a lot of people that are, this happened, or they got a rush order and somebody needs this, and this order came in and we got to do that. And all of a sudden, where I didn't think I needed wood, now I need it, and I need it here tomorrow. And there's not an easy fix for that right now, unfortunately. So we are, Ken touched on the Iranian conflict. Obviously, that thing's, moving like the stock market, right? Up and down every single day. And one minute we've got good news and we think something's happening, we're nearing a deal, and the next day we don't. But crude oil is down. I think the last I checked this morning was around $73, which is obviously down from a high of well over $100 not too long ago. So feels like there's maybe some relief coming. I don't necessarily know if we'll see that injected into our cost of transportation immediately. I certainly don't think that's going to happen. I think it'll still be a slow grind back to some rates that we were accustomed to maybe a few months ago, and maybe we don't see those again. So, anyways, that's the tough part right now. And if there's one thing I can again use this platform to share with people, take heed of that and get your lumber orders in. Don't get caught short without something. Trucking is a real pain in the you-know-what right now. And the more time that you can give, the better to get your lumber there. Because I don't care if it's a 200-mile haul, it hasn't been easy. And if you're coming out of certain parts of the South, the buildups are tremendous and things that we've never seen before. From a logistics side, even even through COVID, it's crazy. The amount of stuff that needs to get moved and just the capacity is not there. It's not a money thing. Everybody thinks, well, you're trying to be too cheap or, pay more. It doesn't matter. I mean, we'll pay whatever we got to pay to get something moved. But if there's no trucks, there's no trucks. So anyways, that would be my definite advice for this session is stay in front of this thing. Give yourself a minimum 2 to 3 weeks cushion with your lumber purchasing.
Okay. I did have down last time that we were at a very serious capacity issue with trucking. So I see that has not eased up at all.
Yeah. Okay. There's no, and it's going to be a while before it does get better. I mean, I think we've obviously got some seasonal stuff going on right now, which is eating up capacity in the spring and summer months. So that's just adding fuel to the fire, of course. But I think this is going to be kind of a prolonged ordeal here. It's not going to fix itself overnight.
Yeah. Well, you guys both gave some pretty good advice. I do have one last question before we finish today, and that is one of the things that I normally ask. We're talking about a little bit about where things are and the things that are up or down, but is there anything that anyone's finding particularly hard to get their hands on right now? Because that can really affect production too.
Yeah, again, I want to mention this for our truss manufacturers and component manufacturers, obviously with the upper grades and the number one, for the most part, we can find it, right? Like we can find that. Stress grade is one of those moments where it's getting tougher to source. So your 2400, your 1650, and then obviously some of your more specialty MSR grades, not as abundant right now. So that's one thing I would say, especially in the forage. 2x4 stress has been much more difficult find than the 2x6. But, if I call my 5 main producers that make that product and that I can buy on a continual basis, I may be getting quotes out of 1 or 2 right now. So something to keep in mind. So that would be my one thing that's kind of standing out right now is the MSR.
Okay.
Yeah, my guys are having trouble with specific lengths. It's kind of different to everybody. 16s are one that are very tough right now, which is not usually the case. It's normally pretty abundant. I would say I don't think anybody needs to get totally over their skis on days of inventory. It's the end of May right now. I'd say buy through June, but buy as much of your favorite length as possible. Don't need to pick up randoms. Try to cherry pick values as best you can. And realistically, if I was running a truss and component manufacturing shop, I'd try to be 30 to 40 days of inventory. And by the 4th of July, I'd want to be down to 15% capacity on inventory. I would buy now, favorite length, and let it bleed out until we get to the 4th of July.
All right. Well, those are some good thoughts for this week. We had a bit to catch up on, but I appreciate it. And I think with that, we can wrap up our episode for this week. Justin, Ken, thank you so much for your continued expertise and enthusiasm. And thank you all out there listening to SBCA's podcast, Component Connection. If you enjoyed this episode and found it valuable, please like and share it with others. Stay up to date and in the know by subscribing to Component Connection on whatever podcast platform you use most. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, Molly.
Thanks for listening to Component Connection, brought to you by SBCA. If there's a topic you'd like us to explore in a future episode, email us at podcast@sbcacomponents.com.